it gets.
Okay, we'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting for the town of Nantucket for July 14th, 2016. Public comment, obviously we have no public, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for June 21st, 2016. Would like to take a motion to
Move approval.
Yeah, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we go to the election of committee officers. Chairman, would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate David for chairman.
All right, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? All right, for vice chairman, I'd like to make a motion for vice chairman.
Steve.
Second. Second? All right, any discussion? All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
It suddenly occurred to me that I had to think of it to make sure there wasn't more than one Steve on the committee.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I guess we could go to, unless you want to take over, the chairman? David, or you want to?
Keep going, Cliff, you're on a
Okay,
roll.
good, I'll do that. Committee representatives for the program committee and the contract review committee. So,
Peter McEachern, who some of you missed, is at the hospital, at the ER, waiting for a CAT scan. He's going to be fine, but he expressed that he would like to be considered again to be our rep on the capital program committee, so I throw that out since that's the first one up.
Yeah, I'd second that.
okay.
So I'm certainly okay with that. He was on the committee, capital program committee, because he was holed over from a at-large appointment.
Yeah, he was a
wasn't
citizen.
represented.
He was there last year, yeah.
Okay, but not as the FinCom appointee. You were.
No.
I see.
He was,
Okay.
so before he came on FinCom, he was on that committee as a citizen.
Got it.
Then he went on as our representative, and he'd like to continue as the FinCom representative.
He's good.
Okay. Discussion, those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And the contract review committee. Who was on the contract review committee last?
So I did that last year, and I enjoyed it. Unless anybody didn't enjoy the work that I did, I'd like to be considered again.
Okay. Motion to.
I would nominate you for that.
Okay. Second.
There you
Not
go.
that,
Yep.
All right, those in
The
favor?
slings and the arrows that will come, I'll take that.
I think you probably figured it out last time.
All right, so officially, if those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we go to review the reserve fund transfer requests. I don't have them all. I tried to print them.
I think that Mel sent you the two for our.
Right, I didn't get to print them out, but I saw that we,
I will first of all apologize that he's coming late, but we were working very diligently with OAH to try to figure out everything we could close and make sure that what we were putting forth was absolutely correct with these two. So, I do apologize for these coming earlier this morning.
So Brian, was what we got, we did some the last time,
Right.
which was 120, 130.
Right. And the ones on the Excel sheet that Cliff referenced, these are just 4 more that were needed after the final payroll was done for some changes that we weren't sure were going to necessarily absolutely impact it, but did impact it. So, which ones do we want to do first? Reserve fund for OAH or these 33Bs?
we can do the 33Bs first, I
Okay.
guess.
So there's 4 of them, and as you know, but for the new member, Massachusetts general law allows us from a period of May 1st through June 15th to transfer from any department budgets into another department budget 3% of any budget line item, or $5,000, whichever is greater.
Yeah.
We did do one round, I think a couple weeks ago, for some a few lines that we needed to take care of before year end. As I said, we were looking at these. We thought they might not make it, but we wanted to be sure. And since there were payroll, we had one last payroll, we decided to just wait. I'll go through them. Human resources, there were a couple salary increases. We thought we're going to be okay based on the timing of when the former left and the new person came in, but due to some salary changes, we actually did need some additional money. Town clerk salary is related to overtime and the new regulations surrounding the early voting and when people can come in. So she's had to staff that and have additional help for a brief period of time for the early voting period. Health department salary is they hired an additional staff person who we believe, based on the change from the director and new allocation into the reserve fund, we were going to completely be able to fund that salary, but we ended up not being able to put it all through the special revenue accounts, being the septic revolver and the food permit revolver. Plus, with their enforcement of beginning last year with some septic regulations, we hired the part-time staff a few weeks earlier to try and get a jump on what Roberto has been trying to accomplish. And then the plus salaries, we thought, based on the indirect cost allocation from the 3C grant, that we were going to get a little bit more than we did, so we ended up a little bit short in that line at year end. So,
What grant was that?
we have a 3C transportation grant, and we can
Yeah.
charge indirect costs for Andrew's salary and
Yep.
a portion, and we didn't quite get where we had originally projected we were going to. We've proposed taking this from the group insurance budget. We have not even transferred anywhere near what we can from that line, and it's still, we've met all of our obligations for the town's commitment into the health insurance trust, so we do have that money available to transfer. So I will tell you that the selectmen did act on these on July 6th and voted to approve them.
So how big a mess would we make if we decided not to?
Well, you would reduce my free cash by 40,000 and make me raise it on the recap sheet, so
Okay.
that would be a big mess.
Yeah.
Any further discussion, or we just want to make a motion?
No,
Brian, this is just
Yep.
your comment about the group insurance budget. You basically said you had more available, so I take it you have a surplus in that account, and that money ends up being free cash
Well,
when everything is sort of certified? Is that how the
It
way it
will
works?
flow as free cash. What we do is the reason that we have some additional money is there because people change plans or leave or whatever. We don't, that's where a lot of it comes from. We have the last couple of years made every attempt to make sure that in the health insurance trust that we have a minimum in the fund balance of approximately 20% of the prior year claims. So when we do that analysis, we may transfer some of that surplus there to make sure that we have that. However, whatever is not transferred there would automatically flow to free cash.
What was,
Okay. Now, you used the term 20%.
Yeah.
Is that an arbitrary term, or is
That's roughly where you want to have your fund balance in a health insurance trust is approximately 20% of your claims from the prior year, so it's right around $2 million is what we're
yeah,
shooting.
what you want is you don't want to get caught short.
I don't want to get caught short.
Yeah, so that's why
Yeah.
I guess I should have been a little more direct. The 20%, I assume, that if it's not an arbitrary number, it's based on some experience.
It's based on an experience with our healthcare consultant and what they recommend we have in there, so.
Okay.
Okay.
any further discussion? Or would you like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The ones I did, I guess, did we add to them, or they were the same ones that didn't get signed, or?
They were the ones you got unsigned, but Rachel has actually signed the copy. She was reviewing them. We sent them to you so you would at least see what they were.
Okay.
And then I have the signed copies here for hopefully when you approve them to be able to sign. So it does have Rachel's signature on the copies I have here.
Okay, so we already approved maybe that's what I'm confused about. We approved the permanent salary.
You approved the 33B transfers. Now these are coming directly from the reserve fund. These are not the same. This is the reserve fund, which only needs the FinCom approval.
This
Okay.
is
I thought we approved the permanent salary that wasn't there before because it needed to be
How much?
approved.
No, so what you did before was we transferred the money to cover to put in for Rachel's salary because of the fact that we had anticipated that she was going to be paid out of the human services budget, and we needed to put it back to ensure that our CPE and our Medicare reimbursement rates would not be negatively impacted because outstanding workers' comp claims that went through, and there was subsequent additional overtime to cover the shift needs for, with the workers' comp. So there's an additional 153, and we waited until the end of the year to see for all the workers' comp claims to be paid and to see what additional overtime is going to be there, so that we weren't coming back 3 and 4 times to try to do this with the economy.
So, it's not your policy to do a reserve for workers' comp in the budget?
Well, we have a workers' comp trust fund, and we bill back all the enterprise funds directly for their costs. For that.
But given that we know, particularly at our island home, that there are a lot of workers' comp claims, would it be prudent to build some level into, hi Peter,
There's a number built into the budget.
Already.
There is already, and we vastly exceeded that. So there is.
and what's the projection going forward on those?
The projection and the hope is that some of these are coming to their conclusion.
As you know, hope's not a plan.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing every single individual case, David, I don't know exactly where they stand, but I do know that there's
Are they the ones with, do they have a higher claim
yes.
experience than anybody else in the
They do,
town?
yes. Partly because of the very nature of some of the things that they're doing there.
That you're saying this $153,000 is for overtime.
The majority of it is to cover workers' comp claims. And then there's a portion of that additional, which is to cover additional overtime.
Okay, I
necessary
didn't hear
for-
that first
okay,
part.
Right.
A lot of overtime, that's why I was thinking.
No, it's not all overtime. I mean, there's a substantial amount of workers' comp claims that get through that salary line item type accounts. And then there's overtime that is on top of that to cover any of those shifts.
Now, getting back to what David asked, this number, you didn't pull it out of the thin air, so.
I did not pull it out of the business.
So the issue is, knowing about, we've made some assumptions around the settlement of these claims.
We make our best stab at projecting what they're going to look like and hoping that they fall our way, or as close to our way as possible.
So,
Given an idea, if a worst case, what would happen if the worst case happened?
What would happen if the worst case happened?
How much money would it cost?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, John, to be honest
Okay,
with you.
all right.
not
I'm just
sure.
trying to get an idea of where you are on that, you know what I mean? You're somewhere here, the question
I would
is.
have to look and see how long they've been out
Okay.
and the severity of what the situations are to figure out how much longer it may or may not be.
That
You know,
might be for another meeting, I would like, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. I'd like to know.
I will give you, to the best of my ability, the information. I mean, obviously, some of it's protected in what I can tell you, but I can give you an idea.
Last year about this time, there was some discussion about a particular claim that was outstanding, and it had been for like more than a year. Is that included in this number, or that's separate still?
I'd have to get back to you on that, Steve. I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure exactly whether that claim is still outstanding or not,
Okay.
but I will get that answer for you.
so, experience with workers' comp, Peter, have you, so, just sort of a general question, which is, does the town, are we allowed by union contract and/or does the town have a program to bring people that are out on workers' comp and give them different activities? And I don't,
I mean, you're talking about something like light duty?
light duty.
Yeah. I believe the contracts do. I believe that in working with the workers' comp insurance and the consultants that we have, we attempt to, at every juncture that is feasible and possible. Again, I would probably have to review every single one of these claims to see exactly if it's possible or not. I don't know what all of the injuries were or were not.
But does the town have a standing program to put people onto light duty? I mean, that's really the fundamental question versus sort of an ad hoc.
I believe when it is appropriate, we make every attempt to do it, yes. And it is allowed under the contract, so.
Brian, our experience modifier, how is that going? Up, stable, or down?
Stable to a very minor increase this year. I mean, as you know, it's all based on claims history and
Correct.
stuff, so, and obviously in the job classifications, but it did not deviate very much from last obviously give us some of the tools to lessen that impact. But it was fairly stable to a very minor increase this year.
How many job categories do we have within the actual policy?
In excess of 10.
Wow. And you notice that it's in specific one or two of the job
Majority of
classifications?
them are in probably one or two of the job, and they unfortunately are some of the higher cost job mod allocations, so.
Actuarialists, they know their trap.
They do know what they're doing.
Thank you.
Back to light duty for a second. Is the light duty that's offered restricted to like our island home or the town?
I have to look at every individual contract to see. I believe it's restricted to the location. I don't know that you could take somebody from one entity and light duty them into another. I'm not sure. I have to look. I don't know the answer.
Same town.
Yeah, but there's 13 unions.
There's 13 unions, so I don't know that.
Neither do I, but I bet the union had stuff.
Well, I have union plants, ton of them.
Well,
Yeah, I don't.
your
think it's-
experience trumps mine. I don't have any union experience,
Not municipal
from
union.
what I understand.
I would have to review the contracts, but my initial instinct would tell me that they probably can't be shut.
If it's restricted to something, just our island home, good luck.
I know. I'll,
Why bother to have it?
I will look and I will respond back to you with that.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, someone like to entertain a motion?
This is just for the 153, we haven't,
We haven't done the 20.
the 20, okay. So moved.
Any second? All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So we've already explained our
This one.
Okay, so the 20,000 that we're asking for under the expense line is related to purchase of service for for physical therapy related to patient services there. So we ended up incurring some higher physical therapy costs than anticipated during the year.
And that's a contract, as I
That's
understand.
correct, yes.
And reimbursable?
Some of it may be, but we can't use it to offset the cost in the same fiscal year. So, and if we had more of that, which generated more reimbursement, then it would flow to retainer. So we're not allowed to use increased revenues after the tax rate set to offset costs in that same year.
So what do you do?
It goes to retained earnings. So it would be used in following, it would be able to be eligible to use in subsequent year.
any further
Let's do it.
discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to entertain a
Motion
motion?
to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
We're done.
Well, I have a couple of things. Quick,
Okay.
thank you. First of all, Henry, welcome.
Thank you.
Everybody know Henry Sanford?
I've met him.
Delighted to have
Joe
you.
Grouse, Henry.
How's it going, Henry?
Never met him.
Yeah.
You've never met him. And I know Craig's not here, but in absentia, I want to thank him for what his 3 years. He was a good guy. He took on something that not a lot of other people would take on, which was trying to see if we could make some headway into our pension issues and unfunded liability. So anyway, and I think everybody knows he's going back to California. I think his wife's already out there. So anyway,
David, when is that, when is he leaving?
well, he's here for the summer.
Yeah, he's here from the summer. He'll be here probably, I think, till October. I think, and he'll be back, I think they're gonna be back summers too. I don't think it's.
No, I think he's coming back. So.
Okay.
A couple of things before we talk about our next meeting. Policies and procedures. Did everybody who wanted to get a look at the first? I know you're going to send it around. I know there was some discussion about does it how does it flow organizationally for people to say, we like it, we don't like it? And the selectmen didn't, if I recall seeing a meeting, did not necessarily think that it had to come to that they were necessarily looking for FinCom input on the subject.
I think they were, they wanted to, obviously they have to approve it, so I think they wanted to be the last stop versus me bringing it to them and then showing it to everybody else. So we had agreed.
Okay, so you've agreed that.
I agreed that we would, and they, I think, wanted the FinCom to see it, so I agreed that we would send the drafts out, and if people wanted to individually make comments back, that we would accept them and incorporate to the extent possible what we could, or whatnot, and that they ultimately would be involved along the process, that it wasn't just going to be me sitting in my office hammering all of these policies and saying, here, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're really building these for the future, not just for today. So, so I think that they were happy with the fact that not only the FinCom but the Board of Select, we were going to involve them obviously in the entire process, which we extended the same request to meet with Emily and Leo that we had sent to everybody here too. So now we got the second draft back based on the comments and some further discussions with Linnell and myself and a couple other people in my office as well. So the second draft will have blue highlights on anything that was changed, so that you'll be able to easily identify what was changed versus instead of having red lines everywhere. So the goal is we're going to send that out probably tomorrow morning. Give everybody 3 to 5 days to kind of look at them and say, okay, this, can you look at this, or why are we doing this? Get back to them with additional inputs. There's still a couple that we're working on, trying to even really kind of get our head around what exactly we think it should look like to an extent. And then, and probably the one that's been the most difficult and will continue to be the most difficult one is the debt policy, because we can't write a debt policy that I go to Moody's and at Standard & Poor's in October 6th and 7th and say, hey, we have a debt policy, but we plan on exceeding it next year. So that's kind of the most difficult one to really get, because there's two types of debt, and I don't want to. Well, I think that once we have a debt exclusion, we've automatically decided to buy it. So I don't know that it should count, but in the overall macro view of the debt ability of the town to pay, it should count towards some percentage and some percentage on its own. So we're trying to struggle with how are we going to do this, especially given the fact that what we know is coming, or what we know is potentially in a capital plan looks like it might be coming. So I think that's the one that's going to be the largest struggle for us to get kind of where we all feel comfortable with. The rest of them are probably, some of them are really standard, and it's just just getting people's opinion and what they think and how they look. So I'll be sending that out. Probably give maybe a little bit longer, maybe a week or so, to give you time to look at them and digest them. I'll send them to Selectmen, then we'll send them back to Emily and Leo with any recommended changes. And the plan is probably at least one more draft through August, with the goal to have them approved by sometime in September, because just in case not everybody knows, one of the driving factors not only is the fact that we got a compact community grant for this firm, Scapini and Pina, to help us write all of this. So the state is paying us giving us a grant for $25,000 to hire somebody to help us draft these and guide us on some best practices and everything. But this is also driven by the fact that in November we're going to be doing between a $60 to $80 million permanent debt offering for probably between 75 and 80% of the school and 75 and 80% of the fire station projects. And given the size and the scope of the bond offering, we need to have 2 ratings, which means we're including Standard & Poor's, which we've never been rated. We're not, for a long time, not been rated by. And we've decided, since we need 2 ratings, to actually do a road show where each of them come here for one day, and we do a big presentation. It also means that I have to have the audit done the 3rd week of September, so that the CAFR and the full audit can be ready to be distributed to them when they're here. So with that, we've sat down to kind of look at all of the inputs for S&P, and when we look at all the inputs that go into making up the S&P credit rating, been the impetus to really force the issue of the discussion and how we're doing this. And we were fortunate enough that the state, the Baker Legal Administration, is big on partnering with communities, and they've made these funds available to do this because it's been quite an arduous task just working with Leo and Emily over the last month to get this, month and a half to get this where it is. So that's where we're at this point.
I'm not on solid ground in terms of open meeting, but my suspicion is that we shouldn't exchange comments amongst all of us, so, and I would prefer not to have to administer collecting it and sending it out. So if, let's not copy each other, but if you do make comments, send them directly to Brian.
Quick question, has this already been distributed? Did we all get, or did just you see these?
No, remember a couple, about
We sent the
6
original
weeks
version
ago.
only to the people who said they were going to meet. We didn't send it, so this version is basically the same except for some minor.
We got
I just don't
invited,
remember.
we got invited to sit down with the consultants. And
Oh.
some people did, and obviously.
Okay,
So
okay.
And so that, as a result of that, and the selectmen, I think, did the same thing.
Right, they had
And so-
the same opportunity.
Okay,
So
I'm
this
just
is
sitting and saying, I don't think I've
This is
seen all
the-
this stuff,
this
so
is
I'll
the
see,
result of that.
so
So
you're
you
gonna,
should-
we'll see the next round.
You'll see this
Got it,
version,
got it.
I'm going to send it out to everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
And really, I don't know who else, you saw it. Cliff, did you? Let's take a look. Peter, you didn't.
Okay, just,
I know John did. So I think there are a couple of areas, as Brian said, that, I mean, most everything's pretty straightforward. There are a couple of areas that I think will become apparent where you need to.
Very quickly.
okay.
And we did actually make some modifications to the debt by, in the number, because quite truthfully, just 12% across the board is kind of a difficult rate, especially from this perspective. If you look at Wisconsin, their budget is 86% debt, so even the policy that's on the books today, I've immediately exceeded without even. So we made some changes in such as that we could exceed it if it was through, federal or state mandates, i.e. a water system having to meet certain regulations and guidelines. I mean, there's certain things that have to be done. We can't tell them no. So we've kind of tried to tweak it in a way that makes sense, and hopefully will allow us to live within it.
Be interesting to see how you ended up on that one.
Still a work in progress, believe me.
Yeah, that was a little funny.
You want to talk to timeline for a special town meeting? And then,
Do I want to talk to him?
to the timeline for a special town meeting. So my understanding is that citizen petitions are due by the 1st of August.
That sounds great. I didn't bring the timeline. Oh, I might actually.
I didn't.
I probably do have one, so I think I do.
Special town meeting's the 17th of October.
When did they open the warrant?
Okay, so
I think it's open.
warrant open for any town articles July 7th through August 1st. July 20th, the board has to make a determination on any ballot questions that will be going to the November election versus having a special town election. And the reason that they have to do that is by statute, we can have 3 ballot questions for debt exclusion questions.
What was that date?
The Wednesday meeting next week, July 20th, they'll make the determination of what questions will go on the ballot.
I have a copy of this, so,
Yep.
and actually I think it's in the packet of the Board of
Okay.
Selectmen.
You got it. Send it to
I'll
us?
send it to you.
Good.
So between now and through August 11th, we're compiling all of the warrant articles. The expectation is that at the meeting on the 17th of August, the board will adopt the warrant. It will be forwarded to FinCom on the 18th. It says FinCom needs to review warrant, so I assume we will have to post a meeting on the 18th for you. 22nd, it's sent to the newspaper. 25th, it's published in the newspaper. September 2nd, FinCom public hearing notice sent for publication on September 11th, for public hearing on September 13th. September 20th, anticipated that FinCom will adoption of motions to warrant articles. September 21st, Board of Selectmen review motions, comments, and adopt any additional comments that they would like to make. 22nd, a warrant with motions sent to printer. October 5th, warrant with motions mailed to voters. The 13th at 1 o'clock, there's a pre-STM FinCom meeting. And at 2 o'clock that same day, there's the normal conference with the moderator. And then everyone will get to enjoy Or else I can,
And the presumptions, the articles will generally be the next round of sewer, or the whole raft of things?
there'll be a few other articles that I think have been discussed, but I don't know how formally they've been written or whatnot yet. But I'm sure that, I think that, I suspect there'll be a funeral home article, is my guess.
Good.
Just what we needed.
I'm just saying what I think maybe, might be coming, because I've been asked a few questions, so I suspect that that's going to be a citizen's petition.
It would be a town meeting without a funeral.
I think we're going to get a citizen's petition, and I'm not sure how it's going to be worded. My wife had an interaction with the petitioner about our island home and not approving any money unless it stays where it is.
That'll be fun also.
Which will be a challenge. Fire station, we're going to see that one. Everybody know the situation with the fire station?
No.
When you say-
Peter was involved with looking at the bids, so. Are you
Well, I heard-
speaking out of
Why are you
school?
looking at me?
I'm looking for acknowledgement.
The only thing I heard is that they're going to need more money,
Yes.
substantially more money, I think.
So what are we doing in our bidding process? Are we doing it too early? I mean, why are there so many variables that we have to do it twice?
You have to vote first, then we bid. Correct.
Right, but
Not a problem.
we had a reasonable set of assumptions that we used to come up with the number. We were all confident that it was the number, and we all said to one another, this is enough, and we won't do what the school did. This is good. This is a good amount of money, correct? Everybody said yes, and then what happened?
And I'll add that they said they had value engineered it as well.
Right,
So,
right.
since that was,
I think the group of people best able to answer the question about the bid is not me. Is probably the OPM, would be my guess.
Who's-
And I believe
who's that?
they're, Vertex. I believe that they're actually giving a presentation to the board on July 20th.
Oh, okay. They're going to answer those questions.
Well,
My expectation is they will answer those questions.
they'll listen to the questions.
That's why I said it that way.
so as far as you know, that you can officially say you don't know how they're going to handle this. So, I mean, they could handle it by asking for
I
a
know
reserve
that
transfer, right?
I know that there's various options that are being explored as to what ultimately is going to happen, but I can't definitively tell you right this minute.
David, you said there what value engineering was done.
No, well, that's what we were told when we had, since that happened to be something I was
Yes.
on my soapbox about that night, but.
Oh, I remember that, yeah, very clearly.
But it was done, supposedly, but,
It was more or less a bare bones garage with some dormitories, was
Yeah,
what we
right.
were told. There was no other place to cut. It was all,
and you didn't ask your gym question either, did you?
I did not. Now we'll find out if
And
they
so-
really need separate
And so
gyms.
how far over the revised number that we approved is the bid? I mean, what's the delta of where?
Is it $1 million?
Yes.
Yes.
How much?
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah. You know,
On 15, what was the,
No,
what was the final number?
On 17.
On 17. So we raised it from 14 and change, or 15?
From 15
To
to 17.
17, and now it's at 18. So we're running what is that, 20%?
I think, and this is just a general comment, but I think at this point, I hope that it's going to have to be made very clear to the voters that it is a bare bones. Because the suspicion will be, right off the bat, that it isn't.
I think he was being facetious. I'm not sure that it's very much, right? Were you being a little
Well,
facetious?
I was being a little facetious. I can't imagine that $18 million is the cheapest facility that we can build that would serve our needs.
Well, that's where I'm kind of going, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because the point is that whatever it is, there's still a hangover from the police station, you
Right.
know, and anybody doesn't know it, or you don't knock anybody in, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I was shocked myself when I saw how the police station ended up, because some of the bells and whistles are pretty nice,
Yeah.
and way beyond what's required, but are nice to have, you know.
Yeah. As one taxpayer, I'd like to see that all of these spaces, you know, that were designated for the various offices or the dormitory area, or, you know, all the finishes are in line with, you know, similar departments on the Cape or, you know, elsewhere.
Yep.
And I haven't seen anything like that yet. I've seen per square foot numbers, and then a Nantucket factor multiplier put in there, but it doesn't seem to be rooted in anything. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't think.
that's what I'd like to see. I don't know if we'll see it.
Well, you know, this is an interesting segue for discussion, which is, as we go forward at this special town meeting and then at our regular town meeting, you know, what's the will of the committee to drill down further than we have, or maybe we think we drill down too far on some of these issues with the department heads, and if that is the case, that we would like them to be better prepared and be more explanatory, it's something that we can start now to work with them to let them know that, you know, it's just not going to be, you know, 10 minutes and thank you very much. I mean, my personal frustration is that I think that we oftentimes have people that come very unprepared who are asking us for a lot of money, and we're put in a pretty difficult position. Sometimes it's very difficult to say no. Certainly, most people know that they can get onto town meeting floor and you know, to an end
And we're
run.
up against timelines where, you know, we're forced to act without full sets of information. So I agree with you. I think I'm not prepared to do it this afternoon, but I would like
No,
to
no, but
come
I-
up with a set of questions that we can,
Well,
you know, give to the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things like average dollars per square foot, in my view, don't have any meaning.
Right.
What has meaning is what's in it.
Mhm.
Walk right down, what's in it.
Yeah.
Because
What's in it?
Because,
What-
you know.
What's the less costly option, and can it do the
Yeah.
job as well?
Yes.
And I think, to some extent, you guys I'm looking at you, John, because you were on the capital program committee. Peter, you're on the program. To some extent, probably to a great extent, that's also what you guys are trying to do. Is that,
And maybe the
does
right
it not
thing to-
work out that way?
We have to elect a chair for that committee, correct? So I think that,
For the capital program,
exactly,
you're the representative.
representative.
But in the
I think
past,
that sets the, you know, temperature of the meetings, in my estimation.
your chairman says.
Wouldn't it be easy to start with when you come to municipalities and a fire station, when you're just like starting any budget, once you start with, this is what we need by law. I mean, we need so many exits, we need so many showers, we need so many, and then
Right, and then it should be about, you know, response time. If you're gonna deliver a better quality of service in some measurable way, then maybe an expense is warranted. But, you know, I don't wanna hear that the HTC likes the look of, you know, brick facade on the building, and that's why the cost is 30% more, or, you know, whatever. I mean, that's an example. I don't think it's meant to be brick. Maybe it is, but,
Yeah, something. Well, you know, David, the only thing is, that I don't know whether, you know, I haven't been on the capital program committee for a couple of years, but I don't know what they're willing or not willing to do. But they're a subcommittee of this committee, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be out of order for us to ask them to do a very in-depth look at this and
Absolutely.
report back to us
Yeah, absolutely.
with a you know, with a written report.
Is that the case? I know what the charter says, it is a subcommittee of the finance committee, but I think there's some,
the charter also says that it's not.
yeah.
The charter also describes a different constitution of the capital
I've
program.
also learned that I'm not reluctant to get into deep discussions on the interpretation of the charter. Because everyone has their own interpretation of what it does or doesn't.
All right, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Well, maybe I made the assumption it was simply because if
I think
It's in the charter.
Yeah.
It's in there, but I think it also references something
Somewhere
different
else.
in another section. I think.
Right, so
Why
it's,
there's some
it is
confliction there.
explicitly stated that FinCom will act as the capital program committee, but it's also explicitly stated that the capital program committee will be comprised of, and then it goes on to list who those people will be, and it doesn't say all of FinCom, it says, representative of these groups,
Yeah.
whatever. So there are two explicit definitions of what
Yeah,
capital program
that's the
committee is.
membership, but
Yeah.
the point is, as I understand it, it's still, it's an appointed committee, it's a committee that, in my understanding, is connected to the FinCom.
I think that there's two things, and they're both very clear, but they can't both be true. Maybe we'd have to look at what the organizational chart looks like, but I think that it's described two ways, and they both can't be correct.
I just remember the year that I was on the committee, there were a few issues where I remember Phil sort of Stanbaugh felt that, we kind of dotted line or aligned to the FinCom, but we also have a dotted line to the Board of Board of Selectmen, so there was, I don't know whether this is sort of the practical outcome of the way these two parts of the charter are read, but I remember feeling, we sort of have an independence from the FinCom as well, as I remember, so.
Okay. Well, we can either do it ourselves or ask the Capital Program Committee to do it. If the Capital Programs Committee says we don't want to do it, that's fine, then we'll have to do it ourselves.
Well, let me, I've taken the task, I'll figure out what the organizational structure is to make sure that we have a good working relationship, with the idea that, to the extent that there can be a further drill down at the capital program committee, that's obviously the best place to have it happen.
It's a good initial stage. There was an incident or a subject last year that the Capcom made some commentary on the requests, and the requests were removed from the capital budget, and then we saw them as an operational add-on, which this committee then got, which then, fortunately or not, passed muster. So, I think that's, Capcom was the first attack, so to speak, for the questioning. No one wants to be a rubber stamp and just say, well, harumph, and go ahead and spend the money. One would think that all of the budgets, Brian, come to us with full support of administration and full support of all the department heads, and we have to accept that. But yes, if we see something that's awry or looks like it shouldn't be, I think that we have our due diligence to bring it up, and we did.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So, nothing else that you know of that's going to be on the special town meeting that, other than maybe the funeral home?
No, I haven't heard anything definitive on anything else at all, other than the two that we already knew were coming because of the meeting sewer and turnaround home.
Okay. Anything else? Next meeting, shall we hold setting a date?
Well, if we follow the STM timeline, then I would surmise that we would schedule it for Thursday, August 18th, because it says warrant final forwarded to FinCom. FinCom needs to review warrant. So
Do we want to meet once between now and then, so we
That's
can
what
talk
I-
about what
yeah.
type of investigation we might want to do as far as
That's
okay,
what I
good.
was.
Yes.
Anybody got known vacations, or we're definitely not going to be around?
I will be around until, unfortunately, the 20th. I'm leaving the 19th for about a week.
August.
September, September. I'm here
No.
pretty much through those dates, the 11th, the 18th, 22nd. I've got a couple of days I have to be away in August, but big gap is really at the end of the process. I'll be missing for all those meetings you probably mentioned, the 20th, 21st, 22nd. I'm gonna
Could
be
we
gone.
maybe do something on like the 4th of August? Following week is race week,
August 4th?
or,
Fourth sounds good to me.
Looks good to me.
I'm fine.
Good with
Thursday,
me.
4th, perfect.
does that work for you guys?
Yep.
If it works for you, I'll make it work for me.
Unless it's special town meeting, in which case I'm on the beach.
My vacation is planned a year in advance, so I'm saying I do apologize, but
No apologies necessary. I mean, the work you're gonna be doing this summer to get us ready for special town meeting is
4
worthy.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on a final agenda. Would you be ready then to share the stuff that you're working on as it relates to leading indicators and what we're trying to do with data, or is that premature?
Can you give me a day to look through it and see if I can get there and talk to Julia?
Yeah, do you want to just take a quick minute? Should be I'm hoping that it'll become something that we see regularly. I know we're going to see it regularly, but
Sure, so as everybody knows, we hired a financial analyst, and in about 3 short months, I think, and you can chime in too, but I think we've come pretty far very quickly. We have a preliminary forecast built, which goes out 7 years, and what we've been doing, or Julia has been doing, is running various types of regression analysis on it to try to help us determine what some of the leading economic indicators that we should be using are to try to get us ahead of the curve in trying to, with as much accuracy as possible, foresee when we may start to experience some downturns, which could put pressure and stress points on the budgets. So we've been working on some of those. And trying to decipher which ones make the most sense, because some of them really trail what's actually happening in the economy, and some of them may be forward of what's happening. But we're trying to come up with a set of a few of them, because you can look at any one of about 50 or 60 different ones and get different answers all the time. So we're trying to narrow it down to a set of maybe between 4 to 7 of them that we feel are reliable and we can graph out and look at and kind of see where things are going. Really, for the purpose is, because of all these projects that we're undertaking, we really want to get an understanding of what a baseline budget looks like, and then what additional services budget might look like, and then factor in any of the capital plans that we're doing to get, with the additional debt and the debt exclusions, kind of A, see where the tax rate may end up going, but B, just to see where everything's going, and then build or function with these leading indicators, and try to, so we can be a little much more proactive than reactive, because typically, in my experience, a lot of municipalities are more reactive than proactive to these things, and by the time we realize that we need to be doing something, we're already a year into a recession, instead of being forward-thinking and slowing down our growth rate so that we're already have planned ahead. So, Julia's been spending a long time. I probably could bring something on the 4 or 5 or 6 of them that we kind of have discussed already, and maybe looking at doing.
yeah, I
Some
think
of
it
it's
would
pretty
be
interesting.
It's
on what it looks
interesting,
like.
and I think it represents a level of professionalism of how we're trying to stay out in front of this.
absolutely.
We have
I would
we
be
have
very
an
interested.
answer.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that would.
And I'll bring Julia too, because I can speak to what we're trying to do, but she has run all of the analyses on this, so it would be good for her to be able to walk through some of it.
And just to punctuate this, is it 17 or 19% of the revenue that we take in comes from things like room tax, motor vehicle registrations, non-property tax related?
Or non-stated.
So that's actually, if that falls off, we'll feel it
Well, that's
pretty
what happened to
quickly.
us, David, in 2007,
Yeah.
8, is that those things went, and all of a sudden, we're sitting there,
Yeah, and that's what Brian
you're
and
not gonna have
Steve
a,
are
you're
trying
not
to
gonna have a
Trying to
mitigation
really
property
get
tax,
that
you're gonna get what you're gonna get.
Most municipalities were behind the curve in 2008, and, and some of them actually trail, because, like building permits, you could build a building permit and it can give them to 6 months to start it, right, Steve, or something like that. So,
right.
there could be a delay in some of the construction, which delays give new growth, and there's some things that trail that, but there's some, one of the other really interesting ones, if you look at it, is really rooms and meals tax. It absolutely exploded. And the trajectory, if you run a pure analysis on it, is almost vertical at the rate it's going right now. And there's no way in my mind it's sustainable on the path that it looks like it's on right now. So these are the things
When the
that
Barnacle Inn costs $300 a night for a shared bath, you know that
So, but yeah,
we all should get in the
Times are good.
Airbnb business.
So we'll work on that. We can certainly add something to the agenda and do
Right. Thank you.
And that's because they're the best deal in town.
They were.
They were, okay.
They got a price
We're
on
not
it.
going to have the whole forecast, but
No,
think
no,
the
I think,
indicator stuff is also-
and I think people will find it pretty interesting, and hopefully as it gets completed, it'll be something that it's set up so it'll feed it quarterly. It's something that we would.
Yeah, I think what the goal really is, and obviously Julie and I look at it on a monthly basis as we're building everything, but what I hope to do is we kind of finalize this, and obviously we still have to kind of work with the selectmen on some of this too, is the goal would be as part of the quarterly reports to give them a presentation on where these things are. We're trying to build these really cool things like stoplights, so they automatically will go red, green, or yellow depending on what the parameters are. And we're trying to get, what I'm really hoping to accomplish is we get ahead of this to a point where we're more confident in where we're going and what we think may happen. And the only way we do it really is to get all this built and
Yep.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Second.
Go have a cocktail. Thanks very much.